We'll call the meeting to order for the Economic Development Authority for Tuesday, June 14th, 2022. Do we need a poll roll call to start with Les being remote, just only on voting matters?
Just on voting matters, I think
Okay.
that's fine.
And then item 2.1, this is just to be read about the public notice about remote, or do we need to vote on that?
Should read that, yeah.
Just read it, okay. We'll have a public notice to conduct meeting by interactive technology today. As one of our members is going to be by remote, we will receive an order filed for public notice notifying that due out-of-town travel, board member Les Schultz will be remotely attending the Noam Economic Development Authority meeting scheduled for today, June 14th, 2022, in accordance with Minnesota Statutes 13D02.
Good morning from Nebraska.
Good morning, Les. Thanks for joining us.
Yes,
So then, Dan, you need a motion to receive and order file that public notice.
Okay. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to receive this.
I'll make a motion to receive and order the filed public notice.
I'll second the motion.
We have a first and second. Is there any additional discussion on the matter? Hearing none, this will call for a roll call vote
Yes.
as well, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So could you please call the roll call, Heather?
Commissioner Berg,
Here. Yes.
Commissioner Black,
Yes.
Commissioner Becker. Yes. Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Schultz,
yes,
President Brum.
Yes. Motion is carried. Item 3.1 would be to approve the EDA minutes from May 10th, 2022.
I'll move them.
I have one thing to comment in the minutes. I didn't see anything in there with regard to Oak Hills where I abstained from the vote.
Oh, for last
There
month.
wasn't a vote.
There wasn't a vote? Okay.
It was just a discussion item because we're
Okay.
bringing it back this month, I
Okay.
believe. Okay.
I'll second.
First and second, any additional discussion on the matter? Hearing none, then we'll call for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Berg,
Yes.
Commissioner Black,
Yes.
Commissioner Becker,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Schultz,
Yes,
President Brum.
Yes, motion is carried. Item 4.1, administrative activities for May 2022.
Right, good morning, President Brum and Commissioners. You have the report in your packet. I'll just highlight a couple items. Note under the EDA report, the fund balance increased due to a fund transfer that was approved last month. Touch base with Maxfield Research on the housing study, and that continues to progress, and they expect to be able to get us a preliminary draft sometime during the month of August. Note under the Home Buyer Assistance Loan Program, 3 applications were received and approved during the month of May. Note under the Get It Ready Loan Program, 1 loan closed in the amount of $9,000. And note as well under the Garden Terrace report that the fund balance decreased due to the fund transfer that was approved last month.
A question regarding Garden Terrace. They recently went through and updated the waiting list, is that correct?
Yes.
And so this new waiting list with 25 on it is relatively new and fresh, so
Yes.
we're already back to a waiting list of 25 there.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to accept the administrative activities report for May 2022.
I'll second the motion.
We have a first and a second. Is there any additional discussion on this matter? Hearing none, we'll call for the roll call vote.
Commissioner Berg,
Yes.
Commissioner Black,
Yes.
Commissioner Becker. Yes. Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Schultz,
yes,
President Brum.
Yes, the motion is carried. Item 5.1, operating reserves litigation update. I remember this.
Yeah, I'll give a little history on this for the newer commissioners as well as refresh the memory of the commissioners that have been on the board a while. This This has been going on for about 5 years, this litigation. So the New Ulm EDA entered into an annual contributions contract, or ACC, with the Department of Housing and Urban Development to administer the public housing program. That contract was entered into back in the early 80s. The contract states that HUD will fund our program based on an operating fund formula. The formula is based on rental revenue and utility expenses from the prior fiscal year. In 2011, as a result of the recession that we were in and sequestration at the federal level, Congress authorized HUD to require agencies with operating reserves above a certain level to utilize their reserve funds in lieu of receiving an operating subsidy. As a result of that decision, the New Ulm EDA received no operating subsidy funds for the entire year of 2012. If not for this offset, our agency would have received approximately $58,000 in operating subsidy that year. As a result of that decision, a breach of contract lawsuit was filed on behalf of 355 housing authorities in October 2012. The EDA was presented with information about that lawsuit and declined to participate at that time. In 2017, the housing authorities won that lawsuit and were awarded over $136 million in damages. And then as a result of that decision, a second lawsuit was filed, and the EDA did decide to join at that time, and that was filed in November 2017. After nearly 5 years of government appeals, extensions, and COVID delays, the case is now over, and the housing authorities again prevailed. So we have now received a check for damages in the amount of $53,261. Because these are not federal funds, but damages awarded by the court, the only restriction on spending the funds are any restrictions imposed by our charter or any applicable state or local law. I consulted with the city attorney on the state and local law restrictions, and he said basically that would mean that any restrictions that apply to any other public funds would apply to this. So we can't take it and go on vacation or spend it in a way that we shouldn't be spending public money. But we can take this money and deposit it into any of our accounts and use it for any EDA purpose. It does not have to go into the public housing account and be used for public housing. So we could put it into the EDA fund and use it to help fund some of our programs or use it for a new use. So I guess that's the discussion I wanted to have today. What are your wishes for these funds? I know Chris had mentioned that we do plan to do an economic development website, and there will be some cost to that. What were you thinking, Chris? 10 or 15,000 maybe for that?
Yeah, no more than 20, but 10 to 15. So I'd go out and get some bids and then bring that back to the board. To do a much more interactive, geared towards site selection, entrepreneurs, stuff like that. So a standalone, so it doesn't look like our city website, but it will still have the look and feel. We'll maintain and operate it as the city, but we'll include New Brick and the chamber on there if they do have programs and services available to businesses, more resource than anything else. So probably in the next meeting, I'll have a couple quotes to bring back to the board.
I think that sounds like a really good use of those funds, at least a portion of them. I know too, Heather, we recently had a conversation, and the small business grant, we've got a waiting list building on that. I don't know what the thoughts are for fellow commissioners about maybe looking at replenishing that. And I know we've also spoken about our daycare situation, in that I don't know if we would want to earmark a certain amount of funds for startup costs specifically for in-home daycares or something, even a $5,000 grant or something that we could use first come, first serve for a portion of these funds. I mean, there's probably no shortage of list of needs out there. It's just a question of prioritization, I imagine, at this point. So I don't know what other thoughts are of the commissioners where we might be able to utilize some of these funds.
Yeah, and I don't know if we need to decide that today. I think the staff recommendation is to deposit these funds into the EDA account because we have no shortage of need there for those funds for multiple purposes. So if that's the direction, then
Do we need to make a motion to authorize Chris to go ahead with the website? Or is that already kind of in the works on a decision that we've already made?
I think we would just want to be directed to deposit the funds into the EDA
Today,
account.
yeah,
And
yep.
then we'll go
Okay.
from there at a future meeting for use of the funds.
I'll offer the motion to deposit the funds of $53,261 into the EDA account.
Second.
We have a first and second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, then we'll call for the roll call vote.
Commissioner Berg,
Yes.
Commissioner Black,
Yes.
Commissioner Betker,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Schultz,
Yes.
President Brom.
Yes, that motion is carried. We're on to item 5.2, Public Housing Operating Budget.
All right, the public housing budget is always our first budget of the year. It has to be approved prior to the end of our fiscal year, which is June 30th, and submitted to HUD prior to the start of our new fiscal year on July 1st. The public housing budget covers day-to-day operations of our 50 public housing units. We work with our fee accountancy neighbor to assemble the budget into the proper HUD format to be submitted by July 1st. There aren't any major changes to the budget compared to the current fiscal year. I'll just note capital funds are not part of the budget. Those are separate. For the current fiscal year through May, we have a surplus of just under $58,000. That's partly due to the maintenance position that went unfilled for part of the year. And we have a projected surplus for the upcoming budget of over $18,000. Are there any questions on the budget?
I don't have any questions. I'll offer the resolution, waive the reading to adopt the public housing operating budget for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023.
I'll second the motion.
We have a first and second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the roll call vote at this time.
Commissioner Berg,
Yes.
Commissioner Black,
Yes.
Commissioner Betker,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Schultz,
Yes.
President Brom.
Yes, motion is carried. Item 5.3, approve the EDA June 14th, 2022 claims.
Oh, give me a second. Somehow I ended up on the library.
Hey, I was there
Agenda.
earlier today.
Need to reopen my agenda. I think I went back one screen too far. Sorry. Okay, claims list. I don't think there's anything out of the ordinary this month to highlight other than a few small capital fund projects.
Looks like I wasn't the only one that had to fix a lawnmower.
We actually had two lawnmowers that needed service, the riding lawnmower and the push lawnmower.
Okay.
Not hearing any changes, Mr. Chair, I'll offer a motion to approve the June 2014 claim list.
Second.
We have a first and second. Any additional discussion on the matter? Hearing none, then we'll once again call for the roll call vote.
Commissioner Berg,
Yes.
Commissioner Black,
Yes.
Commissioner Betker,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Schultz,
Yes.
President Brom.
Yes, that motion is carried. Item 6.1, Oak Hills Memorial Foundation funding request.
Okay, we had a discussion on this item last month, so I won't go through the overview unless you want me to. We just didn't make a decision last month because we wanted to give the city attorney time to look into the best way to approach this request, and they are suggesting making it a forgivable loan so that if the funds are not used for this purpose in a certain period of time, it would need to be paid back. If it is used for this purpose during that time period, then it would be forgiven.
Did the city attorney say anything about, I guess, the use of the funds? I mean, is that something that falls in line
Is he on here?
with what our purpose is and what we can, and we should and should not be doing? I don't want to say can and cannot, but should and should not be doing.
As far as if we approve the request, is this allowed?
I mean, did he have any issues with it?
I don't believe so. I'm not sure if he's on the Zoom.
He's not on. No, and there's not any, there's not any issues. And when you look at it, it's kind of hitting two of the cornerstones for the EDA, which would be housing units and then the additional 20 to 25 jobs that it would create too. So you're doing job creation and housing units for roughly $50,000, which is.
And I think in this segment of housing too, there's always shortages and quite often, if you have a loved one who's in need of this care and say you reside here, you may have to provide this sort of housing in another community. It would be great that we'd be able to provide it locally for that continuity of care where the family can be directly involved. So my only question, and I guess if the attorney's not on, in terms of the forgivability, are there certain stipulations relating to at what point or what conditions need to be met in terms of the loan to be forgivable? Or is it just once the project is completed? What kind of
Yes.
strings are we attaching, I guess maybe is the best
So
way
it's
to-
once the project is started, and it goes through and it is completed and they've used the funds for the specific purpose of constructing this facility, that's when it would be forgiven at that time.
Sure, and this is also in conjunction with a larger and wider fundraising campaign. So if for whatever reason they're not able to meet their goal, obviously then we're not obligated, but we're going to be a participant upon them successfully hitting their overall campaign goal.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and I should point out on that note, the only other change we made from last month is I think originally I had the funds going to Oak Hills Living Center. We've changed it to the Oak Hills Memorial Foundation because they're doing the fundraising.
Well, I read through it. I didn't see any other questions. I like the idea of the forgivable loan. I'll offer the resolution, waive the reading, approving a forgivable loan to Oak Hills Memorial Foundation in the amount of $50,000.
Can I make
second.
can I make a mention right now too that I will need to abstain from the vote due to my employer's business relationship with Oak Hills Living Center?
It's fine. We have a first and second, and Mark's noted abstention. So is there any additional discussion on this matter? Hearing none, then we'll call for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Burke,
Yes.
Commissioner Black,
Yes.
Commissioner Betker,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson is abstaining, Commissioner Schultz,
Yes.
President Brom.
Yes, the motion is carried. Okay, we're on to other business. Addressing future requests for EDA funds.
Yeah, we had invited the city attorney to attend this meeting to have a discussion on how to address requests for EDA funds in the future. as, you know, this issue came up with Oak Hills and how to handle that, and I don't know if he's with us today, so we may need to
He's not on, so let's table this for next month.
postpone. Yeah, I spoke with him yesterday, and he was planning to attend, so I don't know if he had something come up. So we'll just have to push that item.
So then
Okay.
make a motion to table.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion to table this item.
I'll off, go ahead.
Second.
Okay,
I'll offer the motion. Tom was going to second.
there we go. I think we got her nailed down there. Okay, perfect. We have a first and second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, we'll again call for the roll call vote.
Commissioner Berg,
Yes.
Commissioner Black,
Yes.
Commissioner Betker,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Schultz,
Yes.
President Brum.
Yes, that motion is carried. Economic Development Activity Report.
Yeah, I'll just go quickly through a few items. The New Ulm Partnership has started meeting twice a month because there is so much going on and just to keep everyone up to speed. So we just started that this month, but I think it'll work well and will continue as long as we feel that's needed. And then at some point, we'll probably go back to the once-a-month meetings. That group is working on that economic development website that we talked about. That is a partnership endeavor.
That's kind of the one-stop shopping we've kind of
Yes.
always talked about. That sounds just great
Yeah,
to bring
yeah.
all those under one
So-
umbrella.
We have a meeting tomorrow where we will be discussing that further.
Wonderful.
The child care initiative, I did a press release to promote and recruit people for our substitute program for child care. We have a community town hall at Turner Hall tonight to roll out our community action plan and inform the public on our 6 SMART goals that we've developed. And we have a provider training weekend planned for November. That'll be a Friday night and all-day Saturday. And attendees will get, if they attend all of the sessions, they'll have at least half of their annual mandatory training hours fulfilled. It'll be offered here in town. The EDA is paying for it, so it'll be at no cost to the providers if they choose to attend. So I think that'll be popular and hopefully something we can do every year for our local providers as part of wanting to retain the providers that we have. Let's see, commercial property rehab loan program. I've got an application on the waiting list. We are just waiting to close until the fund has had a chance to build up a little bit, so they can borrow the amount they wish to borrow. Small business loan, I have an application on the waiting list for funds there as well. Small business incentive grant program, I have one application pending. The business, it's approved, they just haven't been open 3 months yet, so we haven't paid it out. And I have 7 applications on the waiting list, and I expect to get, I mean, we're halfway through the year. I expect that waiting list to only grow, so as we talked about, potentially putting more money into that to get some of those off the waiting list would be good. Other notes, new entrepreneur networking group has been started. We had our first meeting in May, and the group decided they wanted to continue to meet monthly, so we have our second meeting later this week. And then you can just see the monthly activity there, so. End of report unless there's questions.
Just a question, Heather, on that pending commercial property rehab loan. How far out are we until we have the funds to fund that particular request?
I think we projected sometime this fall, September, October.
Okay, is that going to meet that applicant's timeline for their project? Okay.
I'll offer a motion to accept the Economic Development Activity Report for May of 2022.
Second.
We have a first and second. Any additional discussion on this matter?
Mr. Chair, can I ask,
Yes.
go back to the Small Business Incentive Grant Program?
Yes.
Heather, we have 7 people on a waiting list. Are these folks that have not started their business yet and are waiting for funds?
There are some on the waiting list that are not open yet. There are others on the waiting list that are open. But they applied after, I didn't have any money available, so.
Do we give those businesses that are open priority then? Or is it on a date calendar, first come kind of basis?
It's first come, first serve.
Okay.
So if you, if you want, I can take a look at that and come back with a recommendation next month.
That's exactly kind of what I was thinking. If there's a way that we can get some additional funding to get those folks up and running. We're the EDA. We should be helping these folks instead of letting them just sit on a waiting list. 7 applications. I'm guessing that could sit for quite a while. So
Yeah,
could you meet with?
Well, it's
it's
really.
been unusually active with new businesses this year. It seems post-COVID, there's just been a boom, and I just found out another new business is opening up downtown that, hasn't applied yet, but I imagine they will.
Well, isn't 7 going to really fulfill next year's obligation too?
Correct, yeah,
So
so if we
I
don't get
think we
ahead of
have
it,
to
it's
address
gonna.
it sooner rather than later. It's only going to get worse. I totally agree with Heather's assessment. So maybe that is a good item to bring next month, and we should look toward additional funding there.
Okay.
Is there any other discussion on this?
I'm thinking of just providing us some alternatives for funding in that category.
All right, hearing no further discussion, we'll call for the roll call vote.
Commissioner Berg,
Yes.
Commissioner Black,
Yes.
Commissioner Betker,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Schultz,
Yes.
President Brom.
Yes, motion is carried. I know item 9, we were going to receive a report from Newbrick, but we received an email that Mr. Wessel is out of town, so we won't be receiving his report today. So with that, we have completed our agenda and we are adjourned.